Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast special edition series where I go over every NFL team's offseason plans and preview and make predictions for every team. This is going to be the 20th of 32 shows, and this episode will be the Miami Dolphins. So we have free agents to be, team needs, franchise tag candidate, trade candidate, release candidate, extension candidate, draft fit, free agent fit, and a bold prediction for every team. And now up, like I said, the Miami Dolphins. They have a lot of free agents to be. Cedric Wilson, Braxton Berrios, Isaiah Wynn, Connor Williams, Robert Hunt, Raekwon Davis, Christian Wilkins, Deshaun Elliott, Eli Apple, and Jake Bailey, the punter. Team needs, they have a lot of them. Wide receiver, guard, center, potentially offensive tackle, potentially. Defensive end, defensive tackle, safety, cornerback, and punter. All right, franchise tag candidate. There's a lot of them on this team. To me, it's Christian Wilkins. He's the best player on this team that's going to be a free agent. He is the 7th-ranked free agent on Pro Football Focus's big board. He had a 74.9 overall grade this past season. And then in 2022... he was even better at an 85.1. And then 2021 was 83.3. So he took a little bit of a step back from years past, but he's still a very important player for the Miami Dolphins. Really good run defender, and he's someone that I think that they got to keep. Other candidates include Robert Hunt and Connor Williams. You can make a case for one of those guys, very important players on the offensive line. I don't think they'll tag Raekwon Davis. That'd be weird. But yeah, they have some viable candidates, but to me, the best one that sticks out is Christian Wilkins. Trade candidate, Jeff Wilson. I almost went with a couple other guys, but they have depth at running back. They don't need Jeff Wilson. Raheem Mostert was a big part of their success this past season, as was Devin Achane when he was healthy. Jeff Wilson's a nice player, but he's better than a third-string running back. Somebody could offer them like a 5th-round pick for Jeff Wilson, and he could be somebody's backup that could use an upgrade at backup running back. So, to me, that stuck out. You could talk me into Mike White, who showed promise with the Jets. You could talk me into Liam Eichenberg if they re-sign Connor Williams. You could talk me into a couple other guys that could be trade candidates, even some of their young guys if they don't pay them, like Javon Holland or Jalen Phillips, but I don't think they would explore that route for those players. But to me, that's the one that sticks out the most is Jeff Wilson. Release candidate, this was easy. Teron Armstead, the guy's never healthy. That's been the trend of the podcast with these release candidates. The guys that never stay healthy and the guys that are getting old. They're the auto-release candidates. And Teron Armstead, great player throughout his career when he's healthy, but he's never healthy. So, to me, that's the easy cut candidate. Other ones include David Long, who came over as a free agent. I don't see them cutting Jalen Ramsey or Xavier Howard or even Bradley Chubb because they are very reliant on those guys and they love them. So I don't think that either of those guys would be cut, but their names worth mentioning in terms of cut candidates. But to me, the easy one that stuck out to me was Teron Armstead, the tackle. Next is the extension candidate. There's a couple of these, but there's one obvious one, and he's a big part of their offense, and that's Jalen Waddle. And then obviously Tua Tagovailoa too. Oh my God, they have a lot of extension candidates. But to me, Jalen Waddle is a safer bet for an extension than Tua Tagovailoa because of Tua's past health history and what the narrative is about him. So I don't think they're going to pay him yet. I think he's going to be in the same situation Daniel Jones was in 2 seasons ago. So that's what I think they're ultimately going to do with Tua, potentially. So to me, the easy extension candidate would be Jalen Waddle, although Jalen Phillips and Javon Holland both deserve mentions for this as well. And even Austin Jackson, who really has improved as a lineman after not being healthy and underperforming as a first-round pick. He actually played pretty well this past season. So, yeah, they have a lot of extension candidates, but to me, the safest bet to get extended on the Miami Dolphins is Jalen Waddle, not Tua Tagovailoa. Draft fit. Graham Barton. This makes a lot of sense for the Dolphins because Robert Hunt and Connor Williams could both be unrestricted free agents, and Graham Barton can play anywhere on the offensive line. So the Dolphins, they draft him, and he can just go anywhere on that line and would have an instant impact on that team. Other Dolphins candidates, I think Braylon Trice is an interesting candidate if the team were to somehow lose Christian Wilkins, or if they got rid of Zach Sealer. I think Antoine Winfield is a candidate for free agency for them. It's like they splashy move. The Dolphins like to make those splashy moves, but they have more business to take care about than the splashy free agent signing. Danielle Hunter would be a weird fit, but an interesting one nonetheless. Imagine if they signed Mike Evans and then they have a big 3-8 receiver. Yeah, that'd be something. Kendall Fuller, Carmen Curl of the Commanders. I feel like Leonard Williams fits with everybody. Bryce Huff would be an interesting fit. Trent Brown if they get rid of Teron Armstead. Kevin Dotson if the Rams don't franchise tag him, which I think would be a mistake, as I mentioned in the last podcast. But yeah, there's a lot that stand out for the Miami Dolphins in terms of free agent fits, but I put down Kevin Zeitler for their free agent fit. And I didn't even go over the rest of the draft fits because I clicked on the free agency big board by accident. So Braylon Trice is a good draft fit. If they were to go receiver, maybe Brian Thomas Jr. to upgrade the number 3 spot so they could have like a fantasy receivers, kind of like how Seattle does. Byron Murphy, I think, is a good Dolphins candidate. Ennis Rackestaw, Troy Fatano, who I had mocked to Miami in one of my mock drafts. Leonard Taylor's a fit. Kamari Lassiter's a fit. Even guys down further on the list. Javon Bullard is a name that stands out. Devontae Walker, Brendan Rice, Kalen Bullock, Xavier Legette from South Carolina, Patrick Paul out of Houston, the tackle, Jalen Polk out of Washington, Tyler Nubin. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting draft fits for the Miami Dolphins as well. So I said Graham Barton for draft, Kevin Zeitler for agency. So the case for Kevin Zeitler, it's not a significant drop-off from Robert Hunt. Robert Hunt's going to be paid by somebody, but Zeitler's a veteran that could just come in and start for them. So Robert Hunt was 27 on the big board, and Kevin Zeitler's 32. That's not a big difference. And I think that the Ravens have other priorities before Zeitler. And I think that would be a good fit if Robert Hunt were to leave the Dolphins. Bold prediction for this team. Multiple big-name veterans will be traded or cut due to paying younger players. So this is different from the Chargers situation, only because the Chargers have so many cap issues that I think they have to cut guys because of it. The Dolphins, I feel like, have to get rid of some veterans to save money to pay their young guys. They have to pay Tua. They have to make a decision on Tua. They might pay him. They may not. Jalen Waddle's going to get paid. Jalen Phillips is probably going to get paid. Obviously, Javon Holland they have to take care of. So the Miami Dolphins have a lot of guys that they need to take care of for extensions. So I do think Teron Armstead will be cut. I do think that the possibility is there for one of, I think David Long is the one that I think is going to be cut. If I had to guess which of the veterans could be cut, I think David Long, maybe Mostert or Jeff Wilson. But Jeff Wilson's probably going to be traded. I don't see it being Mostert, but you never know. I think Wilson's traded. Armstead, cut. David Long, I could see being cut. And maybe one of the big guns that is highly paid could get cut or traded, whether it's Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Howard, or Bradley Chubb. I just don't know which one. But one of those three, I wouldn't be shocked, is cut. David Long, I think, is cut. And then Jeff Wilson's traded and Teron Armstead's cut. That's my guess for the Dolphins. All right. So potential futures. So Tua for MVP. Is not as high as, say, like Jordan Love, but it's up there. So Tua MVP is 25-1. What's Tyreek Hill's number? 100-1. Because he was in the conversation for MVP before the end of last season. Raheem Mostert 300-1. Devin Achane's 300-1. But Tyreek Hill for Offensive Player of the Year is probably going to be like 7-1 or some cheap number like that. Christian Wilkins Defensive Player of the Year is an interesting one. He's been a dominant guy on the Dolphins defense. So I could see him being like 20-1 or something like that for Defensive Player of the Year. Mike McDaniel Coach of the Year is probably going to be one of the long shots. He's not someone I would expect to be Coach of the Year. Dolphins to win the AFC is 11-1. Dolphins to win the Super Bowl is 21-1. I think that is a little short because I think the Dolphins are a team that might take a step back with some of the potential cuts and losses they may have to the roster. So the Dolphins to win the AFC East next year, I think will probably be 3-1. Before the year, I got it like 275, and I thought I had it the whole way, and then the Bills ended up winning the division, and the Dolphins lost that Week 17 game and had a ton of injuries. So I think that's going to be 3-1 or higher. But if it's higher than 4-1, sign me up, and I take a chance. But we'll see with the free agency and stuff with some of the guys they have to pay and some of the guys that they could lose. Win total, I think, is going to be like 9.5. Wouldn't be shocked if it's 9, but I think it's going to be 9.5 because they have to play the Patriots twice and they're rebuilding, and maybe they keep some of their guys and still be up there in terms of contenders. So I think the win total is going to be 9.5. That just makes a lot of sense. And if this team underachieves, I think this is a potential Belichick destination. We're doing that throughout the show, debating who's a Bill Belichick candidate or not. And I think the Dolphins are one of them. If they, let's say they lose some guys in free agency and they have to cut guys because they have to pay other guys, and the team takes a step back in result of it and signs lesser players in free agency, and the team goes 7-10 or 6-11. I think McDaniel, with Belichick sitting there, and obviously the Dolphins have an owner notorious for firing coaches when people don't think or agree with the decisions, and Stephen Ross. And I could see Stephen Ross making the move and say, hey, Bill Belichick's available. I'm going to do it. So I do think the Dolphins are a Bill Belichick candidate. So that's it for the Dolphins. Next up will be the Minnesota Vikings.